down the hammer and pick up the pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the savvy landlord.
Okay, who's your first time here?
Host.
Just you, Ben? You guys? Okay, welcome to the party. This is your event. I'm just the host. I just mediate on this situation. We covered random subjects from making money to losing money with appraisals. And that's what we're talking about today. We wrangled this gentleman up. His name is John Wright. Say hi, John. We appreciate you coming.
Good to be here.
We get a lot of questions about appraisals. And there's a debate that just happened to me just recently where I sold a property to a guy. And I sent him the appraisal that I received on the property, which of course it was a great appraisal. The appraisal came in at $75,000. And so you should buy this property from me. I sold it to him. And he gets an appraisal 30 days after my appraisal, and it came in at $35,000. So I was like, F this, we're going to figure this out. Something's not right, right? So John is in the building. He's on the third floor. So if you ever need appraisals done, this is not a commercial, but it is for people that are actually real estate investors that do it all day, and they have a profession called appraiser. That's him, and I'm gonna rip him to shreds here today. So make sure we got this on record. Okay, I don't want to get sued. So I sent John gladly 20 questions. If you have a better question, which you probably will, and we vote on it, you can receive a wonderful book. Okay, so you can pick a book right here. Brian Tracy, Jim Rohn. Okay. And everybody wants to be a millionaire, right? Or you can read the crap that I read about timing and real estate markets, okay? So if you now you have to raise your hand, and I'm going to call you out, and you're going to ask the question, okay? So I sent those two appraisals to him, and we're going to get heated on those appraisals. I want to know why they're different, and we're going to learn all that stuff. Is everybody cool with that?
Excellent.
Is everyone else going on? Okay. So without further ado, thank you so much, John, for coming. And you're gonna just lead us as we learn about appraisals.
Okay. Who are the first thing I like to start out with? Who are the users of appraisals? Typically, it's the lenders, the investors, the attorneys, the realtors, etc. The majority of my work is lender driven, and it's for usually a refinance loan or a purchase, or maybe going back to the bank in an REO type situation. We do a lot of investor stuff, private work. The intended use of the appraisal is typically driven by the actual by the lenders or by the users, and so they tell us, okay, we need a drive-by, or we need a desktop appraisal, or we need like a full appraisal. That was one of the things you'd add. The full appraisal is going to be like where we actually show up to the property, we'll measure out the entire property, measure the garage, figure out what the square footage calculations are, take pictures of the interior, and then gather it that way. The drive-by is from the street, so we'll actually take pictures from the street, and we use an extraordinary assumption that the square footage from the county is correct.
Oop, that was my question, number one. What happens when the county assessor has the square footage off? Do you amend that? Do you verify that measurement on your own?
What typically happens, or what happens to us from time to time is like, especially in like Canadian County, I've had several that have been upwards of 200 square feet different. And it's usually in the garage. When they can't get into the actual garage, they'll assume that it's straight across on the back, and they'll assume that it's 22 feet, deep. When we get into it, sometimes there's another garage in the back, a tandem or something like that, or whatever. So as far as amending anything through the county, I'm not really sure about that.
Is an appraisal a legal document?
I know that typically what we'll do is we'll call it out. So I'll put a sketch in there, and then I'll put my sketch in there, and I'll talk about the differences. And sometimes that'll actually affect the value.
It doesn't go to the county.
Yeah, it doesn't go to the
county.
county.
Could I use that? Can I bring it down to the county and
Absolutely.
say, hey,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So why would I want to do that?
Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Why would you want to do that?
Well, if you're
Taxes.
who wants to answer that for Dean?
I will.
Good.
You'll want to do that because you're getting taxed on it.
Well, I want to do it because I want to increase the value of the property if I'm going to sell the property.
Yeah, but
or
if
if
you-
I want to refinance.
But if your garage has an extra 200 square feet in it, and they're putting that square footage in your living area, you're getting taxed for 200 square feet.
True.
On the resale of the house, you can convert that garage and put that 200 square feet and make a killing in the resale of it.
Okay. Cool. Everybody's cool with that one. That's the reasoning. That's the reasoning why. I mean, I've never done that before. It could also be an insurance situation too, where your claim is usually, if you're getting insurance, it's based off the county assessor, right? I mean, how many insurance agents scroll down there and measure the house? They don't. Well, that could affect your claim too. So that's why these are just little details, little things you need to be aware of. But I want to know if has it been a legal document?
Not that I know of. Yeah.
Okay. But you have to be licensed to be an appraiser.
Right. Yeah.
So what's the
What's
point
your
of you?
definition of legal? It's as
Like-
legal as a lawyer
like-
doing something, if that's what you're asking. But
No, it's
not
like it's like
government.
proof. Like, you know, you pay for a notary. It's $5. It proves that this is a legal document, or I mean a legal document. It proves that I signed the document.
Are you asking if will a county change it based off of an
Yeah, or if I ever had a discrepancy in a situation where, like, I saw a lawsuit go down once where someone was sued because they had misinformation, like, right? And this is where I could say, no, here's the information that I was privy to. Like, can I administer that
You
as
can,
legal
but
evidence?
Most of you can, but most appraisals have them in there. This is not for litigation.
Okay.
or
Any other purpose.
They'll allow
So to
you.
protect
They'll
you.
allow you to.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
they'll allow you to use anything that's public information in there, which a measurement is a public information.
So do you guys carry errors and omissions?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And why would you carry that? Because you're giving your
Required
opinion?
by- It's
Right.
required by most banks.
Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions?
I got a question.
Yeah.
What do you find with your lenders, the difference between a drive-by and where you go in and do a Freddie Mac, measure off and take pictures of everything?
Most of the conventional FHA and VA stuff is all full appraisal. They want to know the condition of the property. They want us to measure it. The drive-by stuff is a lot of times the in-house bank. You know, and I say in-house bank like commercial side lending.
Right.
So for us investors, a lot of times it's just a drive-by. You know, and then we hand them off a list that says, okay, we're going to do this, and this to the property. And so they're making that assumption and using the county information for that.
Okay, so when I've had banks require what are my rehab costs, and I submit that, and then I submit that to my appraiser,
Right.
and then you add those figures up, and you trust my figures that I'm putting in there.
It's
Just saying.
It's-
I'm just saying.
Yeah, it's not always. That's a good question because
This has happened to me more times.
because
I've
some
done
guys
the-
will puff it up a bit to make it look better.
No.
Right? So it's all good, but it's
do that.
about the finish. It's about the finished product. It's not about how much it costs for you to get there. So if
Okay.
you are similar to properties that have granite countertops and refaced kitchen cabinets, new flooring, and everything else, it's not about how much you spent to get there. It's just about
Creating the value.
Are you there? Yeah. Is that what you are similar to now?
Okay, another good question. I get a free book. Do you go it off of the contract price, or do you even have the contract?
No, we do have the contract. We're obligated to take a look at the contract and to
Obligated.
study it if it is available.
Do you request it?
Yeah, I always request it because they want us to look and see if there's anything in the contract that might push the contract price up or down for whatever reason. They want to know if there's a lawnmower or a horse or a whatever in it, or if they're going to give $25,000 concessions because it's a family member. We see all different types of things, and so they just want that out in front. That's actually one of the second sections in our report is the contract and the information in there. So, but no. to answer your
my
question-
goal is I don't want you to know what I got it under contract for.
Well, this is the deal.
Well,
We
here-
legally have to ask for it.
Okay.
And we have to legally state that we weren't supplied it.
right.
Which some lenders will If it goes almost to Fannie Mae, it's, or
Has
if it's
to.
FHA definitely, it ain't going. They'll say, then it's
Okay.
a no deal. So we have to legally say what means we went about trying to get it.
Okay, let's define.
No, here's one of your questions was, you don't want us to know it.
Well, I
because,
just-
because you don't want us chasing that contract price, because you know it's worth more.
Well, it's happened
Right.
to me several times.
Yeah.
It's just convenient where it's under contract. My appraisal came right by that time.
Right. Well, okay, so here's the deal. It's supposed to be, the definition of market value is the most probable price that somebody would pay for it.
Mm.
It's not the contract price that you guys have it under.
I know. I'm
You
a
know
real
what-
estate
you know what I
investor.
mean? So yeah.
Hello.
So the whole thing is at times we will come in above the contract price, and so usually I'm picking up the phone. I'm not saying, hey, is there a situation? What's going on here? And I find out it's a divorce, or somebody's like, no, it's my family member. I'm selling it to him, or whatever the reason is. And then sometimes it's below. Of
Okay.
course, we get the phone calls when that
Well,
happens too, right?
I'll have a question in a minute. I'm going to just give it to you
And
now
so-
so we can warm you up.
Yeah, and so
Can I call you while you're doing the appraisal? Can we be homies?
Depends
One
on
word.
Probably
what
not-
type
probably
of-
not
Depends on what
homies,
type of appraisal it is.
Okay.
We can't
Well,
technically,
all right, let's
if
get.
we're anyway influenced.
I'll get your
we're
questions
supposed
to Zach. Hold
we're
on.
supposed to, if appraisers anyway feel like they're influenced, we have to actually file that.
Okay, great. So you can throw me under the bus.
The,
All right.
the best
So wait, hold
the best approach there approach there is to catch us before we stamp it, sign it, and move it on.
Well, my trick, hopefully we can get to this.
in the beginning.
Is I roll with you when you're on the property. We're hip to hip. Like when I do commercial properties, like I did this building. I mean, we walk through every nick and cranny and why we're doing it and what was the reasoning, because I don't want any confusion. And that guy still threw me under the bus, but that's on another day. My question for you is, let's define appraisals, because some people in the room may not know the difference. So
Okay.
can you elaborate on what's a full appraisal, what's a drive-by appraisal,
Right.
and what's a desktop appraisal? Right, those are the three
Yeah.
that you work with.
Yeah. So the full, the full is a full inspection, a full walkthrough, measurements all the way around the property, measure the garage, take pictures, drive the neighborhood, note, basically find a benchmark for the property. What's the condition? What's the amenities, unique features, anything like that? So that's the full appraisal, and then you do all your paperwork off of that. So you're doing comp selection, you're taking a look at the county zoning, the websites, all that stuff. Pulling assessor data, MLS data, and then working through that entire appraisal.
Just a quick question on those. Which is the most common one that you do?
The full,
And that's because of your lenders.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, we work for VA, FHA, and most of the.
Any questions? Anybody have a question on full appraisals?
Is that a Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae form?
Yeah, it's the 1004.
Okay.
What difference does flooring make? I mean, can you do you get a better appraisal for a certain type of flooring?
Good
Like
question.
ceramic tile,
Good question.
concrete, stamp
Yeah.
stain?
Well, before you answer, let's get
go.
you a free book. Which one do you want, homie?
See
Yeah.
what you got.
Well, quick. There you go.
Proceed by
There's your book.
Oh, I got this one.
Let me finish.
Oh, okay.
On
Sorry.
the drive-by, I'm assuming that the county is correct for the square footage.
Yes.
And I'm also assuming, and I'm using extraordinary assumptions in my report, that the condition of the property, because I'm not walking through the property, right? So I don't know what the condition is. I'm assuming that it's an average condition for the neighborhood. So whatever's average in that neighborhood is what I'm assuming. And so then I base all of my paperwork, all my comp selection, and everything off of that. And so that's what that is. And then the third one is the desktop, which is essentially the same as the drive-by. It's just you're doing everything from
Oh, without-
the computer.
Like you're
without
on
actually
Google.
taking
You're on
pictures
Google
of it.
Maps or something.
Yeah, you're driving. Yeah. So,
Okay,
Are we
what's the
talking more about
pricing?
Comparables, or are we coming into income and replacement?
comps.
Or
Comps.
Yeah, what the value
comparable
is in that
properties.
area.
just comparables,
Yeah.
but you're not looking at income or replacement?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
yeah.
look. What's the cost to differentiate the pricing? So how much is a full on it? We're not asking to quote us a price. We just want to have an idea.
Okay.
So like, what's a
Based
full
on what size?
A 450
1,000
to
square
5
foot house?
450 to 500 is base price for the full,
Okay.
and it'll go on up for a duplex. It's usually around 750.
Okay.
for a full.
And then a drive-by.
Drive-by is anywhere from 250 to 350.
Okay.
And then a desktop
same.
is what, 200?
Yeah, 100, yeah, somewhere around there.
Just,
150
it
to
depends on the
200.
complexity
Depends on
of it and also how many they order.
You kind of have to look, each one of these has what's called a scope of work too. Like I have different lenders, we do the exact same appraisal, but one of them has 13 pages of requirements and one of them has 1 page requirements. So who do you think I'm charging more?
Sure. So basically, you can charge whatever you want to charge. Because I've also seen appraisals go
Well,
up because
except for VA.
Yeah,
Well,
they-
yeah, because the government. So I'm just playing. So I realized that one time I needed an appraisal done on a commercial property, and I got 3 different bids, and one was substantially more because we needed it in 3 weeks versus someone that can deliver it in 6 weeks. Is that a typical situation, or is that just commercial?
No, I think that's
if it's a
typical.
rush, you're gonna pay for it.
Okay. I know we have hundreds of questions here. Seriously, I have like 3 pages of questions. So go ahead, Zach.
So when you get an appraisal, say it comes down lower than what you think it's gonna be, can you challenge that by comps?
Yeah.
To get that appraisal raised?
Yeah, it's called a reconsideration of value, or an ROV, and so I would say take those 3 sales, pick 3 of your best sales, send them back to your bank or your loan officer. The loan officer will then pass them off to the underwriter. We're not allowed to talk to the loan officers. They want us. So usually we'll talk to a processor or an underwriter, and they have no skin in the game at all. The loan officers usually want to see that close because they're getting a concession or whatever.
You almost said kickback.
Yeah. I was looking for the
Rod
right.
report.
What do you
You can't.
So anyway,
It's so
they'll
regular.
hand it off to the underwriter. The underwriter will then say, "Hey, this is what we have. Can you take a look at these?" And we get that, quite often. Right now the market's hot.
Let me
So
give
you
a
can-
lot
so you
going
can-
on.
so you can challenge
So
an
what'll
appraisal.
what'll happen from that point? What'll happen from that point is I'll open the report back up. I took a look at MLS and I look at those cells and I review them, and then I'll put them in there, and then I'll either use them or I won't use them. And if I don't use them, then I'll have a good explanation why, and I'll wrap it up and send it back.
Of why you
Make
did
sure-
it.
Rarely is there
Yeah.
something that
But this is my
that
deal. When
there's
we get appraisals,
that I haven't seen already.
right? Just so we're a deal. When we get them back, ROVs, so make sure you look at the appraisal, not just the value. Because what ends up, I had an ROV 2 weeks ago. Well, it was the same case. The county's got the garage at 20 feet, and it was actually 28 feet deep. So we got 4 foot or 8 foot deep by 20 foot. So that's 8 times 20. Okay, that's a 160 square foot difference on a 1,200 square foot home.
The
So
value.
when that changes, when you guys tend to value stuff by price per square foot, we don't. Okay, if we could do it by price per square foot, we'd be done in 10 minutes, like you are.
True.
But we're not. So, but when you all of a sudden think you don't look down, they didn't look down. They send me stuff. Well, this is what it's on price square foot. Well, yeah, but we're 160 square foot difference. Does that make sense? So make sure you look in there at what the size, especially the size, is the deal. That kind of stuff before you send back. Hey, these are my better comps. And just remember, the bank doesn't have to tell you anything either.
All right.
So
She has a question. Do you have a question, dear?
Sort of. I just listed a property, and so I looked on County Assessor, and it was like 400 square foot. Is it 400? Maybe 300 square foot less.
Difference.
Oh yeah.
So what I did was I just did a cross property, right?
Yeah, the last time it was sold.
Yeah, the last time it was sold, the appraisal came back at 1450.
And also Zillow populated it different.
Yeah, but Zillow is,
make sure.
the A of Zillow is accurate. So
I'll see.
Make sure, where did you get the other appraisal? Don't go off the MLS that says appraisal.
Right.
But there's a huge chance that that's never correct. They just put it in there because it looks good.
Okay. Jason, you got a question?
Yeah, I know that appraisers get a bad rap because everybody else is right and appraisers aren't right. So when appraisers get a phone call, it's usually because an appraisal came in low because you had a copy of the contract. they think that you should try to hit that number.
Right.
Can you talk about how much time you spend on just an appraisal that works out
That's
versus
great.
if one doesn't
Yeah.
work out, how much time do you put in as an appraisal?
So that's a great question, and that's another.
All right, do we give him a
That's an
book?
awesome
The
question.
the phone calls.
That's
The
okay.
phone calls really.
There you go, D.
I mean, the phone call should happen before we turn the appraisal in. If you guys have information or data that you want us to see, to consider that that should happen completely before we turn the appraisal in. So that's the main thing. After that, there's a good chance that we're not going to call you back, because all it is this. Okay, so send it to the underwriter. Say, this is what I'm seeing in this appraisal. I read it fully. This is what I see. Here's some sales to take a look at. I would like to see what he says about that. That's the way to approach that. Now, to kind of embellish, when we have something that comes in lower, even a few $1,000s, we're going to spend hours more looking through the research, calling, making sure that everything's just right, because I know that once I hit the send button, the whole transaction is going to go, just stop, and everybody's going to go, what is going on? What is this guy thinking? Let's go to our data. Everybody's phone calls and sitting on the coffee table.
We
You
got
know what
that.
I mean?
We got that appraisal. We emailed
Let's
them. Don't
let
worry. That's the
everybody see
climax.
this.
That's
So-
20 minutes. We're gonna get
So
into
the
that
thing
one.
is, if I'm going to come in under, this thing's going to be rock solid, ironclad.
So you already have a base number from the previous sale, right? And so you're trying to. Do you just do a basic cost analysis of inflation and of what it sold for before, or do you have access to an old appraisal from before?
No.
So every appraisal is brand new. You're lying to me.
Yeah, you're walking in.
It has to be legal.
Yeah.
Basically, like he said, that's huge. I just turned one down 5 minutes ago because I'm like, there's no way I can get this value. Just glancing at it, it's not worth. People get mad at us. We don't want it to come under value.
Sure.
Because if it comes under value, it's like John said, you can chalk up. It's going to take us 2 more hours at least. So it just takes so much more time. We always hear people go, "Oh, well, they're just a bad appraiser." No, the appraisers do not want it to come in value. Matter of fact, we both talk. We turn them down constantly through the week. If we get them, we look at it. It's not closely. They can go to it. You can get a new appraiser, somebody that's trying to cut their teeth and get business.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're telling me that a bank sends you a request and you look at it and you deem if you're going to take that deal or not?
Mm-hmm. Just like you would buy a house.
Yeah.
We did tell you
Well,
where it's located.
we
that kind of
have-
stuff.
I mean, that's
We
just
have-
fascinating. I never
VA is
thought.
the only, VA's
We
the only one
have we
that
have
does
some
it.
clients that we do it, and there are some clients that we do no matter what.
Is
Because
this a lender or is this
I
like
feel
a private
there's
person?
some lenders that will actually protect you. I've had some lenders where
Throw you under the bus.
I turn the appraisal in and the builder's calling me 2 minutes later.
Yeah, I remember on a
Because
deal.
You know what I mean?
I remember I called.
and he shouldn't even have the appraisal at all. So
I just
then there's
thought legally
lenders
you couldn't
that will
talk to you.
insulate you because we're supposed to be insulated because we're supposed to be that third party that's outside of the whole transaction. These guys want to do it. That's all good, but the lender says, "How much is it worth so that I can loan on this?"
You bring up a good question about legally talk to. We can technically legally talk to you if we're allowed to, because we can only give you certain.
What do you mean if
information.
you're allowed to?
Because it's client information. We fall in the same act as lawyers and parts of it. We can only give out certain information without, because technically when the appraising started, it was for one person's use only, the lender, and then Congress, whatever was allowed to where the borrower could actually get a copy of it. So we can't talk to anybody about information, results, any of that stuff unless the client releases the information.
Right, yeah, I noticed that.
And then some clients will not let. John and I have a couple clients, and they're big banks. We can't tell you who they are. Well, no, we're not allowed to talk to you at all. They just say, we don't want you to talk to them at all. Anybody.
Wow. Well, let me know that.
Because,
back.
well, partly because I'm guaranteed they're probably using it. Partly because it's this, stuff gets twisted around, and then they're like, it makes. We know people didn't say this, but they're tired of stuff coming back, so
All
they
right.
just.
And
say,
that's after the report's been.
All right, let's
done,
just
not
let's
prior
do a
to.
quick scenario. So I got this duplex I bought. That it was $35,000. As 2 sources of income brought in $1,000 a month, and it was listed on MLS for like 45. I got it for 37. This is a long time ago, and the appraisal came back at 35. Now, why did it not go off the income? Explain that to me. Since you shook your head at
lenders
me.
don't. Lenders outside of
It's bricks
outside
and
of
steel.
commercial properties, they're not loaning on the
Right.
income approach. It'd be the only reason you guys have ever heard of it because according to our regulations, we have to consider the income approach, the cost approach, and the sales comparison approach.
Okay.
But they won't loan off anything but the sales comparison approach. A lot of times, if you think of yourself as like you privately lend,
Sure.
you want if you were going to privately lend to somebody in California, are you going to believe the realtors that tell you
No.
what it's worth, or are you going to hire an independent person and say that has no skin in the game?
Sure.
And that's kind of the easiest way to look at a lot of times is if you were loaning something you couldn't see. But they don't, the income approach, they want to know, because basically they want to know what is it going to be worth if it gets foreclosed on tomorrow.
If it's empty and it's not producing income, what is it worth when they have
Okay.
to foreclose it
But
off?
like on a commercial property that I purchased,
Commercial-
they required the income
is
approach.
That's a different,
Right.
that falls under a different.
It really does.
Like he was adamant about it.
The commercial side is completely different.
Okay.
It really is.
Anyone else have any questions before we tread John?
To his question, do you account for the quality of the furnishings, or is it just coated remodels? For instance, would you add more value if it was marble countertops versus just your base granite?
To me, it all depends on the neighborhood. I mean, if you go into a neighborhood, and this is something that I tell flippers and remodelers and guys, be careful about what kind of finish you put on it, unless you can get it as cheap as laminate. You know what I mean? If you go into a neighborhood and all they have is laminate and you put in granite countertops, crown molding, and just knock it out to the top, if there's not another cell up there, then you're hitting the top.
Mm-hmm.
You're hitting the top.
That's why I'm not a flipper.
It's great that you've got those furnishings and it's knocked out, but it's not necessarily going to bring that top. Probably the top dollar, but it's not going to be over that top dollar. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a way you're farming a neighborhood or a market area, if you can find out what the finishes are in there and be there, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You'll probably
Love
save
that.
yourself some money and also a headache with trying to
Okay.
value the property.
But John
afterwards.
says the key, we can't give value to anything straight out, period. It has to be proven by a sale in your neighborhood.
Of a comp.
We're looking
So-
for.
but
we're
exactly.
looking
What's the
So-
timetable on that comp?
So like if it's you want to put a 10,000, you ran into
12
this, didn't
months.
it? A 10,000, well, it depends on, who it is. $10,000 chandelier in a 1,000 square foot
Yeah.
house that's over here in Highland Park, you're not gonna get $1 probably for it.
Mhm.
Does that make sense? But if you're in Nichols Hills, it's gotta be marked by sales. So like when you ask flooring, it's gotta be marked by other sales.
No, I ran into a problem in an area called Forest Park where there's no sales, and it's extremely difficult to get an appraiser there or appraisal done because there's not. How do you help someone in that situation?
So if that's really a rural type property, right?
It's kind of
Forest
rural,
Park
but
isn't really
a lot of
even-
older people live there. They've been
Right.
there for 20 years, so
But
then
it's not a. Yeah, Forest Park to me is not a high density populated area. It's more like a rural town. Maybe I'm not even sure how many streets are there.
Sure.
And
I
when
see
you
what
call,
you're saying.
when there's nothing online, you have to call them for the zoning and for the plat,
Right.
all that stuff. But it's almost like working with a rural property. So you start out with, let's say the subject is 1,000 square feet. You'll go 20% on either side, and then you'll do maybe an age parameter of 10 years on either side, and then you do is maybe a mile radius.
Wow.
And you start to kind of look for similar area. What kind of garage does it have? What kind of, does it have a barn or a shop or what, whatever. You start to kind of work that away.
Okay.
It's a lot different than working a neighborhood like Surrey Hills. Everybody
Sure.
knows Surrey
Everybody- yeah,
Hills.
everybody's- every house
They've
is
been
the same.
stamping out houses in Surrey Hills since the 60s. So you've got phases of houses that are, anywhere from 1,500 square feet to 2,000 square feet from 1960 to 1970. And then you got new phases over here. So it's completely different than that.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
I do.
Okay. Good.
On a refi, are your appraisals different?
No.
They're not?
Yeah, there's some. We are after the definition market value, which is the most probable price that somebody would pay for that property. Not the highest, not the lowest, the most probable. So if we're talking statistics, it's the mode. Not the mean, not the median, but the mode, the most probable price.
So if somebody refied their house in February and they're gonna list it, and then there's a comp down the street that sold that it refied for 307, there's a comp down the street that just went under contract at like I think it was 320.
Mhm.
So we're almost 6 months out by the time we go under contract, then that would be a comp as long as they closed, right?
Yeah,
And not refi.
yeah,
Wouldn't it make a
absolutely.
difference?
Yeah, I mean, we see markets change and turn all the time, and I don't mean I say turn, but like change, like you might have a couple sales that came on the market, 30, 90 days,
Yeah,
whatever.
Military
afterwards.
Park, I can tell you
It'll
10
make
of
a
them.
difference. Yeah, so I would definitely be sensitive to the most newest data. We try and stay 90 days, but most of the time we don't. We can't because we're looking for the best indicators of value, the best substitutes, the best, the size, the square footage, the age, and all the amenities. And so sometimes we'll go back 6 months or even 12 months, depending on the market area.
Okay, Jerry.
Going back to the Forest Park example, what do you do if you have a highly desirable neighborhood, it's very stable, it's a dense neighborhood?
Yeah.
Simply nobody has sold in the last year.
Yeah.
How do you determine the
What
value of that?
what I like to do,
Sales.
sure, yeah. What I like to do is I like to go back 24 months or maybe even 36 months to see what kind of a trend there is. If you can say, okay, well, 24 months ago the houses are selling from 100,000 to 110,000, and then 36 months back they were 90 to 110. So I'm kind of looking at these, and then I'll also look at public records because sometimes you'll see where a public record sale will pop up. MLS doesn't show up, but it was public record. And so I'll backtrack in MLS, take a look and see if maybe it expired out or I can get some kind of pictures. But then you're looking for neighborhoods that are similar in comparison to this one. It's tricky, and that's really kind of a unique property, which, is going to take a lot of time. But you try and find the trend for that neighborhood, and then you find similar neighborhoods, and you select sales out of there. And all you can do is just talk about it and go, hey, this is what it is. I've done everything I possibly can.
You're screwed. All right.
You know what I mean?
Next. So, and by the way, I got a good question. I'll get to another book. Thank you. Cash sales. Does that affect it? And you can't see that because it's not on the MLS. So how do you handle that? Bang, bang.
You know what that one with me?
Yeah, somebody.
It really depends on where. It depends on where it is. 'Cause Fannie Mae's, which is Freddie Mac, which is the biggest lender out there and pretty well controls a huge portion of the rules. They tell us that we have to first look at sales that are marketed. So when you do cash deals, because cash deals are both ends of the spectrum. Typically a cash deal is somebody got it for a really good deal or they get it for a really terrible deal. Cash deals in non-rental neighborhoods typically mean somebody paid way too much for it.
Or they got an inheritance or something.
Sure. Well, they can move from California. They do some of that stuff. They don't know what a good deal is. They're going off of what their realtor tells them.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get,
I've seen
whatever,
that.
which
That's
can be
a-
good or bad. So we see them
That's
really
interesting.
high up there versus really low. We see both ends of the spectrum. But cash sales, we have to know, we also have to, in order to use that, we have to know what the financing is, how it was marketed, and what the interior is like. So that makes it difficult.
To accept a cash sale.
To accept it, we have to know. Like we see.
So you
realtors
throw all cash
we
sales
see
out.
realtors
Yeah.
put builders on there, builder stuff, and it says for comps only. Well, that's a good looking picture.
All right,
That's about
so
all it means.
So let's just reiterate. He says he can't really add those in there. So go to this website, realestateabc.com. You can see cash transactions in there, and that's how I pull my comps. So I love you guys, but I do my own comps,
That's good.
and that's how I do it. I pull out
What was
what's
it
realestateabc.com. And what you do is that they'll pull up a spreadsheet, and you copy the spreadsheet, drop it into Google Docs, and then you average it out. But then we do it by square footage. That's how I do my comp in there, because you can't really get an understanding of an investor neighborhood because there's a lot of sales that are under the radar that you can't tell. Or how long will it have to, when we debate the two appraisals that I emailed you?
Like 2 seconds.
Yeah, I go 3.
Seriously?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was that.
Okay, I'm excited. So we'll wait till quarter till because I'll drag it out. So we got 15 more minutes.
I got something. You may have covered this, but is it on a property you just rehabbed, and you're like, I'm in the process, it's vacant, so I'm in the process of showing it and all that. Does it make more sense to get the appraisal done vacant, or show that you've got it under contract for a 12-month lease, and this is what they're going to pay for to pay for rent? Does that affect anything?
Well, I can answer that. They don't take in rent as a indicator.
Is that the income thing you were talking about?
They don't.
Yeah.
So that doesn't matter.
It's just a hassle for you to get it if you're getting a full blown appraisal because you have to work with your tenant.
Right.
It'd probably be better before.
When
Yeah.
it's vacant.
Vacant.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would recommend rolling with the guy.
That was my next question.
Good. Let's ask it.
You said if you're influenced, you have to file it. Does it help at all for us to show up with a binder and say,
Yes.
"Yeah, 15 grand on this"?
Yes.
and receipts?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
The more information
Is that-
you can give us, the better.
You can email them pictures. I do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
And
before
email-
after-
email-
I
fine.
email them pictures.
That's,
Wow.
Yeah.
that's a great deal, but if you spend that helps us out so much beforehand. If you set the appointment, you send us all the photos, all that, because we don't know what it's like going out there.
Yep.
You bought it for 30,000 and you think it's worth 80. You did something to it. How do we know until we
Right.
get
Now,
there?
I won't let them in on a drive-by.
Before,
But after, if I'm trying to do a refi and I put money in it and I'm trying to get the maximum return on my investment, that's when I start emailing them.
yeah.
So I don't want to let them in when it's all ghetto.
Right. But so
Yeah.
you're saying you'd like that before you even show up?
Well, it makes our job a little
Yeah.
easier. I mean, because we know
'Cause they're gonna take that for consideration.
We know what we're going to get into a little bit. So
What about
Plus-
comps? Is that, I mean, I know you obviously
Send
do
them.
your own, but
Yeah, send them.
I
I would
say
rather
send
see them up front.
yeah.
I'd rather see them up front so that I can go ahead and either use them or eliminate them.
okay.
So, like, you need comps from your realtor?
You're going to have
So
some
let's
appraisal.
just talk about comps for 1 second.
It should take more than 3.
Let me give you guys one helpful hint. Now, you probably already know this, but I didn't get stung on this, but I caught this on my own residence. I was considering selling my house, and you fill out a form, and every realtor in the world calls you. Has that ever happened to you before? Okay, so every realtor's calling me nonstop. So then some smart realtors were sending me comps. So of course everyone's greedy. I see this comp. My house is worth $360,000. Oh my! I know it's only worth $300. But I'm making a decision because if this realtor knows something more than I know, they must be better than me. So I'm going to go with this realtor. Well, after I got a few of these fake appraisals or comps, sorry, my bad.
BPOs.
My bad. My bad. I don't know where they put this information, but I noticed on this one individual that they pulled like houses that were totally built a totally different year that weren't consistent. And so you have to be careful of a comp because a realtor could be a rookie. They've never done this before and they're trying to get a sale and they go beyond 1 mile or they go within the same block, but the house, like for example, was a 4-bedroom and they're giving you a 3-bedroom. Or does that make sense? So just be cautious. Like he said earlier, you guys are very adamant about it. Read the whole appraisal. I just saw the 360 and I was excited. I'm like, it's going to change my world. That was $40,000 more than I thought. But in reality, if someone really got a real appraiser, it wouldn't have jived.
Well, you just touched on something that I think we may have discussed previously. 3-bed, 4-bed. I want to say that maybe sometimes that's not always
It's not. It's really not. Now, I see a lot of differences between the 2s and 3s depending on the neighborhood or the development. But the 3s and the 4s, sometimes to me it just seems like how somebody data inputted it. I'll walk through a house and it says 4 on MLS, but it's a study.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think I've never been able to really find a clear difference between the 3 and the 4. And so,
well, like a closet and AC.
Well, no, this is
Well,
probably what
like,
I'm saying is it's a personal choice, and you're builder, right? Somebody decides they want a dining room. The square footage is the same.
Okay.
Somebody decides if you're building, you got 3 kids, you want a 4-bedroom.
So you can
But
box
the
it up.
overall difference, it's more of a where you drop a wall. You drop a wall, you got a dining room, you close it off, you may have a bedroom.
I see.
So it's not that in most cases. Now there are a few exceptions, like when we get condos and we get into stuff like that. The bedrooms above 3, 4 is different. Typically, now every situation is different, but going from 3 to 2 is the big difference. 3 to 4 is just a personal preference on a 2,500 square foot house.
It's a wash a lot of times.
Okay, that's interesting.
2-1 versus 3-1.
Good point. Your buddy.
Yeah, we had a situation in Hefner Village Park. It's a condo association over by the lake. It was kind of cool actually, and we went in and we were appraising a 2-bedroom, and as I was pulling my comps and starting to pull all this together, I was looking at it. The 2s were running higher than the 3s, and I was like, what is going on? And so I started kind of deep diving, and I found out that the 2s and the 3s were the same square footage. And they were adding a wall in between the other bedroom. Well, most of your participants or market people in that area are all older or younger. And so they don't have families. All they need is one bedroom to sleep in and one bedroom for a study. So the 3-bedroom was selling less because of that extra wall.
Interesting. All right, Jerry.
So is there no value difference between when you have an extra bedroom or an extra bathroom?
I'm going to say this: it's all market driven. It's if you're working out of Surrey Hills, you know, we check to see if there's any difference. If you're working out of Forest Park, we check to see a difference. But on kind of a whole, kind of a general speaking, 3 to 4s, I'm not really finding a whole lot of difference in my experience. But I'm going to check each time I go to wherever I go.
The problem
if
is
there is, I want to know.
We have to check.
The problem is as investors, 4 bedrooms are more desirable.
Right.
That's
Right,
why
because
we
it's
would
more
assume
income.
that it would be more valuable
Yeah.
in economics.
So bathrooms
Yeah.
don't make a difference either?
No, bathrooms do.
Bathrooms
That's
can.
something you have to extract out. Bathrooms, garages.
All right.
You know,
What
additional
about a
features
garage
also.
conversion?
Yeah, yeah.
How much of a difference in the price per square
Well,
foot is it gonna make?
It just
for
adds
a-
more square footage.
We have to go.
Well, I know, but for
I'll
a,
show you.
But he has a really good question. What's the difference? We can't tell you because we have to look at every market. Every time we get an appraisal, whether it's in Surrey Hills or it's in Highland Park, we have to go into Surrey Hills. Like if you're doing a garage conversion, we got to see what garage conversions are in there and what they sold for.
Okay.
We have
So
to go
so
to
it
Highland
excludes everybody
Park.
else?
We have to go to Highland Park and look and see this. We got these 3 houses at garage conversions. How did they sell to houses?
Here's
So we, have
a,
to go, we can't. Some
No.
neighborhoods in
Oh.
rental places, it makes a huge
F5.
difference because you can get more rent per bedroom in a lot of places.
you
But
can't
if,
really
but if
determine
you're
by.
in probably
Oh, 'cause
90%
you
of your
have it on-
neighborhoods where you're
you
living
have
at
it
now,
on-
if you have a garage conversion, what does it do?
desktop.
It probably devalues your house drastically.
There you go. There you go.
So it's every neighborhood's different.
okay,
So
so
we can't really go by the 50% rule of, okay, you get
We never.
Well,
that's
okay,
60
okay,
for the house and
I've seen that
$30
work. I've
for the
seen that
garage
work.
conversion.
I've
All
had
right.
this conversation with.
All right, we're gonna have
investors.
the conversation after. Come on.
I've had this conversation and I've seen the half rule work. I really have.
works
I know
sometimes.
I've talked to Angelina and Ron and Blake and all those guys, and that does. Here's how we would actually look at it.
Okay.
Here's the sketch. So right there where that living room is on the left,
Mm-hmm.
can everybody see that? Okay.
Yeah.
That's the converted garage,
Okay.
and it goes on up about 20 feet and it goes over.
Yeah.
So actual garage square footage is
Here's the county.
Can be if it's done like the rest of the house.
There's what the county shows.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the front of the property.
so that one garage to the left is not. That first garage to the
Yep.
left is not.
The whole
It's not a,
thing.
the whole thing is
The
not a
whole-
garage.
right.
So it's a facade on the outside.
Yep.
Yeah.
So check this out.
Yeah. Check this.
Here's
out.
here's
check this out.
here's the
I'm about to do all my cribs this way.
here's this is the converted area.
But the square footage is not.
Isn't that
normally in
nice?
the
I mean, that's really
appraisal,
nice.
Is it?
Yeah, it can be.
Yeah, but it's not in the assessment.
Well, yeah, but remember, we're 2 different entities. They don't go into your house. So
Right.
they're assuming it's still there.
So-
the value of the property went up.
So
'cause it
here
converted
was
garage.
here was what we
It could in this
what had to
neighborhood,
happen.
But if you converted
look
your
at the comp
house,
selection,
And it's no
it's
one.
gonna, it's
No
gonna,
one's.
it's going to take away value.
Okay.
So we picked cells that had, here's your garage, carport. All 3 of these cells, it was all market. It's all market driven.
Okay, so these,
So, like-
so your comparables are based on other converted garages.
Right. Yeah,
And
yeah.
if there's no converted garages in
Right.
that neighborhood, it could ding you.
That's when it could ding you. Yeah.
All right.
And then also the city of Oklahoma City, if you call them and talk to them, they'll actually tell you. You can go online and look for permits, but also from 1983 back, they purged it all, so nothing's there. So they assume that it was permitted, that it was done by a quality workmanship, and it was permitted at the time. So all we can do is assume that it was good, and find comps that are like that and move on. So.
Great analogy. Anybody else have a question? Because
I heard that on FHA loans, the appraisal will stick with the house for 6 months.
Yeah, I think it might be. Is it
Yeah.
4 now? Or is it still 6?
I think it's still 6.
Is it 90 days? 6. Oof. Yeah.
When you guys run an appraisal, what's like the age discrepancy of the houses that you guys use? Like the house is built in 1960 and you guys are...
Depends on the neighborhood. If we're working down in Northwest 23rd, you know, that kind of the historical area, sometimes you'll find a newer home and an older home, and they're updated the same. You know, 1920s, 1950s, and this one's as nice as that one. So for those areas, I kind of hold off on any kind of age parameter at all. Now, if I'm working over in like, you know, a stamped out neighborhood, and there is a big difference between the ages, then I'll do a 5 to 10 year parameter or something like that. But I'd rather start out with an open parameter and use my square footage first, and kind of dig through and see what's there, and then if I need to lower them down a little bit, I'll go ahead and add that.
Good question.
I got a question. Yes. Convert a attic to living space.
Really?
In a
serious?
in a 1970, 1980 square foot age home. So what value do you give?
Okay.
And what are the parameters for that value if you add like 400 or 600 square feet?
Again, we gotta go.
This house right here, I knew this was gonna come.
Prepared.
This house right here, just normal house, right? So they finished that out, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's nice. It's finished out, but of course I bump my head when I walk through.
Right.
You know. But the kid's gonna get up there and play around. It's heated, cooled. You know.
Space heater?
Yeah.
Wow.
So we go by something called ANSI guidelines.
ANSI. That was one of my questions.
ANSI guidelines. And so essentially with something like that, we'll stand up in the area, and if you've got a roof line that's coming like that,
Right.
we'll measure at the 5 foot mark. We use a laser. So we'll find where the 5 foot mark is at.
Okay.
And then we measure across to the other 5 foot mark.
Okay.
And so that'll give us our 5 foot. And then we do our 7 foot. Because anything over 7 foot there has to be over half of what the 5 foot mark is to be able to count it as GLA or square footage.
Okay, so that
If it has to be 7 foot.
Let me understand clearly. Everything within that 5 foot going up to a 7 or 8, you count as square footage.
If
The average,
if
50% of it has to be
if the 7 foot measurement
Yes.
is more than half of the 5 foot.
Okay, then my
So
next,
if I measure this as 100 square feet at the
Right.
5 foot,
Right.
this has to be 51 feet for me to be able to count that area at all.
okay, now
Yeah, I'm confused. So did that house count, the midget house
Nope.
that you were in?
Nope.
Okay, so they did all that work and it didn't help them. So
Okay.
they lost like.
Well, okay. So
Okay.
This is my question. Let me.
it's a tricky. I mean, it really is a
Well,
tricky.
in building,
Yeah.
we built a phenomenal amount of homes, and I did everything out 5 foot, and I made my 8 and 10 foot much larger.
Yeah.
But here's the key: in a bonus room attic, that appraisal came in. I got from that 5 foot in, I got the full price per square foot as the downstairs.
As a roof pitch was.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Now-
can if it meets those standards.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's
Yeah.
what I wanted to still verify.
Right,
Does
yeah.
that still hold true?
Yeah.
Because my cost on that upstairs, because I've already got a roof
Yeah.
and I've already got a floor, if I pre-plan it and build it, it's half.
Yeah.
It's half my hard cost. So I was cushioning the value
That's
of
nice,
that
yeah.
house
Right.
by $10,000 or $15,000.
All right.
So
Yeah.
So
Basically,
all right.
it's-
Here's
All right, that's enough.
Okay.
Questions? No questions. All right. So we emailed him. There was an appraisal that I bought a house, came at $75,000. Just to recap, and I let this awesome investor know I had this house for sale. Got an awesome appraise, $75,000. It was a no-brainer for him. He buys the property. We're friends still, kind of. And he pulls an appraisal, and it comes in at $35,000.
Whoa.
So that's why I was asking if it was a legal document.
I heard he put
several times.
$60,000 into it also.
Is it?
Well, and
Well, I'm just
John will
saying.
explain
So we
here.
emailed the Mr. Official Appraiser
yeah.
guy here.
So here's the actual appraisals.
Okay, what happened? How could it be so far off?
Okay, so
within 30 days.
Yeah. All right. So the first guy, the $35,000 guy, he did it February of 2019. Pick 3 cells. Now, in his conversation here, he used that extraordinary assumption that we've been talking about today.
No, what the hell? No.
You explain to them what kind of appraisal this is, though. They're different types of appraisals.
I mean, it wouldn't make a difference if it was
Wow.
a drop-by or a desktop. This is actually a desktop done for his desktop, but even if he drove by the property, it wouldn't make any difference. So we're looking at right here. He said, due to the previous sales amounts and the extraordinary
That's
assumption
terrible.
that must be made that the interior of the property, the structure, and systems are below average condition.
Okay.
So he assumed his scope of work. He assumed that it was in below average condition because of the prior sale.
Because I got a good deal. No. My
Right.
appraisal came
So-
in at 75 first.
So this is why I say, hey, if you guys, we all deal with it, we'll get something for 35 and we turn around and sell it for more or whatever. Make sure that they know that that's not an arm's length transaction.
Right, that guy's sitting at his
He's
desk, he has no
not
clue
supposed
what
to
it
be
looks like.
chasing a prior sale that was at 35. Like I said, it's the most probable price, the mode, whatever is going in that area, and that's essentially
Okay,
what he's.
so what happened here is I got an appraisal for 75. That's how I closed it. Then that appraiser saw that I bought it for 35 and used it against the second investor.
We have to consider.
That's terrible.
We have to consider legally, you can say it's terrible, but the
What-
federal
what-
government, you can right there,
Okay.
says we have to consider all prior sales. So in this case, it would have been
Oh.
a perfect example, anything within 3 years, that's why there's a little box on your appraisal. It says anything within the last 3 years of the subject, we have to consider. So he's partly, we don't know his whole mindset, he should have taken some other steps probably, but he doesn't know what it looks like. He
Okay.
doesn't know what it's based on, so he has to consider the most probable price using prior information of what's sold. So in that case, it would have been a great deal to go, hey, this is what the interior's like. But the bank order, he's just sitting at a desk going,
Makes sense.
I'm guessing, the last guy bought it for $35,000. Is it really worth 75?
I was ready to rip you to shreds.
Right. Well, I
was ready to kill this dude.
So here. Hold on.
I don't know. It was marketed.
Here's what the second guy said.
That's what- okay.
Here's what the second guy said right here. The subject has been improved as to bringing up to the average typical condition for the neighborhood. So he's assuming that it's at average condition or better, and so that's why this is more.
It's really the scope, what we
So
know.
it's more the scope, and also.
But you notice the difference too. 67, 64, 75. The other dude brought him in at 50. What drugs is he
It was
on?
different cell selection because he was picking below average conditioned properties.
It's kind of like if I told you I got
versus average.
Yeah, but I thought
to
it was all
above
the
average.
comp houses in
But
that neighborhood.
comps
Well,
are-
your CMA is going to run anywhere from 35 down up to, I say 35 up to like 90 over there.
So
right?
is this a
And
typical?
so he's picking cells. Okay, I'm thinking in my mind, I'm picking cells that are most similar to this subject, which he ends up coming in at 35.
Right.
And so the other guy's going, okay, I know he's going to do this to it. I think it's worth 75, and so he picks those cells.
It's a matter of what what information they were given ahead of time. It's kind of like when you go into a neighborhood and you look at, if all you're allowed to do is stand on the outside of this house and look at it, and then you had to make a value. You got one over here that sold for 80 and one over here that sold for 40, and the guy says, I'll give you this for 35,000. Which is more likely to be the one that you're going to compare it to without seeing anything but the front photo?
40.
And that's kind of what happened a little bit there.
That kind of kills the investor for getting a good deal, though, I feel like.
I know.
Yeah, but
I know.
And is this a typical situation? Though?
So here,
Right.
Is this typical?
okay. So here's the
It's either
deal.
that or there should have been a
Or I should never
If you
pulled in an
guys,
appraisal.
okay, so like when
We
I'm
can only go by what we.
when I'm handing off, I'm buying a property, right? As an investor, I'm buying a property. I'll send over my list, or maybe I don't send over my list. I just talk to the appraiser and say, okay, listen, I bought it from Joe Schmo. You know, he bought it for this for whatever reason. It's not based on condition. It's based on a divorce or a situation of whatever. And so I'm buying it low. I think it's worth this. Call it what you want. Here's my sales. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that way,
the message is
that way
educate,
he
help
doesn't,
educate
he doesn't
you
end up
guys
at
as
that
much as
35
possible.
mark.
Right.
Like
you're
most of
saying,
these people
without
are
going-
not investors either, right? Appraisals. I mean, it's very rare that you're an
Some are,
investor.
some aren't. It's a matter of he just didn't have all the information.
Can you guys
If that's
define
what-
influence then? Like what you talked about influence? Like, what's the line of where influence?
Yeah, like cocktails at the bar.
I'd say a lot of it just depends on how, you guys all know, it's gonna, obviously the appraiser's personality is gonna matter. We know what definitely is crossing the line. But if you're sitting there, you know, if you're getting, like John's had an incident where basically the builder's like, you don't get this value, I'm turning you in.
And he did.
Well, is that influence? I had a realtor said, you're crazy, I don't know how you didn't get this value. Well, you know what? Unfortunately, you had a cash buyer and then a 75 square foot smaller, and you gave them 5 houses all that had pools. So your CMA didn't say that.
Right. I've been to that.
So, but if you start going, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. That's when it probably is across the line. If you're just like, I love now there are going to be appraisers like anybody else, just like in every situation. There's bad appraisers, good appraisers.
Sure.
I say, like John said, and like Steve said, give them all the information. Let them decide.
Give it up front. Get it out of the way.
Give it all out. This is what is done to it. This is done to it.
And you know, if something does come up and it is quite a difference, then you know, issue your reconsideration of value with the underwriter.
Here's
like,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, let me tell you
let's
something.
do our job. We know what we're doing.
Well, no, they assume that bankers assume that you're an investor, that you know what you're doing. They just assume that. That's just a code.
Or the appraiser getting offended because we're trying to.
No, well, I'll give you two scenarios. One, on this building, we had 3 appraisers show up. It was like the master appraiser from Tulsa, and then 2 little fun people that rode with them, and then I came with them, and I'm like, we're all jovial, telling them exactly what we're going to do, and the guy threw me under the bus. The appraisal did not come; it was $100,000 off. Then we had an original appraisal 10 years ago. So I gave him the 10-year appraisal, and then I came and did the show and dance. Didn't work. But then on my next commercial property, I didn't show up. My realtor showed up, and we got a different appraisal. But I think you should be on, someone representing you should be there at the appraisal.
The other thing, what you don't realize too, is what's behind the scenes. We have stuff all the time that says, these are the guidelines. Like I was telling you, we have guidelines. So you can tell us a lot of stuff, but sometimes we have to meet the lender's guidelines that you don't know about.
Yeah. And you can't tell them.
So we still have to, that's the difference, is we still have to sometimes go down a checklist.
Interesting.
Sometimes we can call them and go, hey, this, because you also have to realize a huge portion of lenders, their hubs are in major cities.
That makes sense.
You know, and you're Chicago, you're New York, and so sometimes you get a little bit, and so that we don't always get to, you know, sometimes there's houses we know this is kind of what we think, but we got to follow these checklists before we can put it in there.
You guys, I thought they did a phenomenal job. Clap your hands for my fellas over here. All right, we got 5 minutes, and so I will say this one. I sent him a bunch of questions. He responded back to this one. I go, how does someone be an appraiser? So let's just see if we want to win some prizes here. How many hours do you think it takes for someone to be a certified appraiser?
1,150.
200. So, nobody.
No,
that's 200 classroom hours.
That's class hours. That's not doing.
No, that's just
not
doing classroom hours. Sorry, let me be more specific.
You still have to work under somebody for 15 hours.
You have to have a college degree and or 30 specific college classes in that field. Thought that's pretty cool. Check this out. All right, so back to the hour thing. They have to work under a mentor before you get your license. Is that right? Mm-hmm. How many hours is that for a price?
1,500.
Oh. Oh, you just said that?
You just let it out.
I don't listen to people, so just get used to it. 1,500. Oh, that's pretty cool. Can I get a discount?
It used to be more.
Can I get a discount?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. Ask for a discount. That's another. Seriously, I'm only saying that because to educate you. You need to ask for a discount. Not all jerky about it, but just and try to do 2 at one time.
It comes in packages. If we get a package of 30 or 20, something like that, you know.
I'm just giving you some tips and tricks. That's why you came today. What can we do as investors to be better, or how to hire a better appraiser? And because we struggle that there is a federal government law, right, that we cannot be involved in this process, and then some banks have a lottery and some banks don't. But how can we find a better appraiser? Someone like you. Can we request you?
All the banks really are supposed to have a lottery pick,
okay,
or at least a rotation. And as far as that goes, I mean, you definitely can't ask for a specific appraiser, and a lot of the times we get questions about, hey, can I have you do this appraisal, and then I take it to my bank, and they trying to get a refinance or whatever it is, and that doesn't work either.
Okay.
So
you don't really do private people as much?
We do private stuff. It's for like pre-listing type stuff, or we'll do investors if investors are going, okay, I got a really unique and complex one. I'm not sure where to take it from here.
Okay.
Where is that ARV at? Because the neighborhood is wonky all over the place. And so we'll kind of dig down and dive down and pull out some kind of a range for them.
Okay.
But yeah, you're kind of at
we
the.
do like measure houses for people that aren't sure, that kind of stuff.
You're at the mercy of the lender, but the lenders,
In
really
control.
they
It's their
control
money.
the list and they keep it nice and so.
Okay. Who is John R. Wright? Tell us about yourself. Why would you be an appraiser?
Yeah, well, I've been appraising for about 15 years, and I was I wanted to buy a rental property, and so 15 years ago I found a for sale by owner in Bethany School District.
Okay.
Had no idea what I was doing, and so I called the guy, and he was like, "Yeah, let's do this." And so I said, well, "What do you want for it?" He said 54, and I said, "I'll take it." Okay. I didn't know anything about it, so I was out there walking around the property, and this lady shows up. It was Leanne. She's got flip-flops on, a tape measure, shorts, and a tank top, and her kids are screaming in the car. And I'm like,
Would have been one of my trainings.
what are you
She's an appraiser?
doing? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
She goes, well, I'm the appraiser. And I was like, I paid you $500 to do what?
You just said that girl's name on the radio.
Oh, she's on the radio? I'm still good friends with her. She's awesome. Anyway, so lo and behold,
I'll edit that out for you, homie.
My neighbor was an appraiser, and then so anyway, I was looking to get out of the rat race. I was in engineering, and I wanted to do something different and do kind of my own thing. And so I jumped out 15 years ago.
And you've been appraising this whole time?
Been appraiser this whole time.
And you've been on your own
Been on my own. We worked for Fannie Mae for a couple of years doing reviews.
Okay.
That was a really cool experience.
That's awesome.
And then so.
All right, we'll pass out your card. Anybody have any questions? Because it's 1 minute. Anybody pass this card around? Anybody have any questions?
No.
Yes.
Where did you go to school for that 200 hours?
Yeah, they like Appraisal Institute and NAIFA. They hold classes, so you just have to go to those classes, and then you've got to find a mentor. I had 2 mentors. I had one in Chandler. She did all rural and commercial appraising, and then I had one up in the city, and he did. And right around that time was when everything started to crash out. So we were doing HUD REOs all day. I mean, it was just one REO to the next. So, but yeah, well, I did all. I stay about a week up here and a week down there, and just go back and forth until I had my hours. So.
Cool. Nobody else have any questions?
I had an appraiser tell me because I was looking
Yeah.
into it several years ago, and he said you're basically going to have to pay an appraiser to let you tag along with him for a couple of years.
Oh, good question.
And,
Is that true?
I made very little dollars.
Yeah.
I actually taught AutoCAD while I was doing it, and just I hammered it. I got it done in 2 years, but yeah, my wife about killed me. She didn't like that at all. But I knew the
Intense.
vision.
I didn't know. I had no idea. I just thought it was like some Metro Tech class.
And Jim's going to mastermind. He's got a mastermind in Dallas he goes to, and some of the guys are actually taking on trainees, and they'll charge $3,000 to $5,000. For that. So that's
Cool.
I think that's where kind of everybody's going, is some kind of a coaching something or other. So in all
That's why the average appraiser's been in the business for 16 years.
Is it?
We interview them every time they call to set up a showing on the house. We'll interview them, ask them how long they've been an appraiser.
wow.
An average is about 16 years.
Huh.
And appraisers never get thanked. So thank your appraiser.
Yeah. Well, we think. Put your hands together.
What is the Savvy Boot Camp? Are you struggling to get to the next level as a business owner? As an investor? Do you want to multiply your income? Sign up for the Savvy Boot Camp, a strategic and supercharged 1-night and 1-day event designed to shortcut your learning process and propel you forward. Just value, no upsells, and an intimate setting to build relationships with like-minded investors. We will be covering
how personality profiling can make you a millionaire. Outsourcing and the nitty-gritty of maximizing your property management. Scaling your business through systems and automation. Technology hacks you should be using every day. And how to raise private money. Go to www.savvybootcamp.com now to register or to find out more.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at savvyradioshow.com. Connect on Twitter at LandlordBook and always be buying assets.